Alright, so as I get started, first I'm just going to apologize for having to do my video this way. I'm recording it off of my phone. I cannot figure out how to record my screen and my voice at the same time. I tried a couple different programs. It did not work. My computer would not accept them. So anyways, here is my HSP number 2, Cultural Diffusion. Change in the use of horses over time. I will say I definitely learned a lot. Very much so enjoyed this project, and was fun because I was able to continue a conversation that I've had with the person that I interviewed. So kind of a topic that we've discussed a lot. So overview, horses have gone through major changes in history, from being the most suitable food source to being used for daily pleasures. Now, the food source, I had no idea. I guess if I really sit and think about it, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, of course horses were used for that. But something I don't really think about, I don't think about dogs and cats being a food source either. They are pets, or at least to me, that's how I view them. So I did not even, close to think this in the beginning. So that was, the first major thing that stood out to me as I was doing this research. In the beginning, horses were initially used as a food source starting back in 50,000 BC. Horse meat was better for sustaining life because it was 50% more lean than other meats. When I thought about these, from my reading, the horses kind of being rallied in this area in order to capture them and take them down in order to have their meat, I was picturing scenes from the movie Spirit, which was kind of funny to think about. Currently, horses are now used for work and leisure, and sometimes a combination of both. The way they were used for work is what was making the most changes over time. And the potential for horses to be used even more is definitely still out there, and something I'll discuss a little bit further in detail. Here's some pictures of the harnesses. You can pause it if you would like to kind of see them. What I found really interesting was this first one, the medieval harness, actually would pinch the horse's windpipe and make it hard for them to breathe. And then here, the classic harness is definitely something still in use today. The neck piece, not always used, but the girth, definitely. Here's a picture of horses used in the cavalry, something I kind of had forgotten they were used for, so that was interesting to read more about. Major dates of changes. The consumption back in 50,000 BC to present, which is strange to think about, but understandable. Utilization and status, 4,000 BC to 1900 AD. Herding, 3,500 BC to present. Chariot, 1700 BC to 400 AD. Cavalry, 700 BC to 1942 AD. Carriage, 1700 AD to 1920 AD, which I think could even be still to present because, we go on carriage rides in New York, and even here in my hometown in Freeport, we, in the wintertime, they do carriage rides to bring people around and look at all the Christmas lights. And leisure, 1900 to present. And then I added the future, finding more affordable option for access to more therapeutic use, which again, I'll discuss a little bit further with the interview. Places where changes occurred. Now, this was kind of something I struggled with. I think changes occurred everywhere, first off. And so they definitely occurred in the origin in the grassland of the Eurasian steppe north of the Black and Caspian Seas. Secondary product revolution created a diffusion of wagons, horseback riding, and wool sheep leading to Indo-European expansion. The expansion piece of that I found interesting because when I was reading, I saw that when they used to herd sheep, a man and a dog could only get around 200 sheep, but a man and a horse could get around 500 sheep. and fossils of Equus, genus of the family Equidae, that comprises the horses, asses, zebras, are found on every continent except Australia and Antarctica. Very interesting information there. I also thought it was pretty cool that to see the continuation of the word Equus in like equestrian and whatnot. I know when you think back on words, you can really see that and how it continues through history, but it was just cool to like see it really in use. I'm going to skip ahead and show you this one real quick. This is my just some information on Kate, who I interviewed. Her name is Kate Rosa. She's the barn manager at Hideaway Acres Farm, where she teaches lessons with the knowledge of Mary Wanless as her guide, along with her own personal experience. She's been riding since she was 11 years old and has continued to have training since the first day she began. Kate also has a bachelor's degree in neuroscience and a great understanding of the value of communication and working with those who need mental and behavioral therapeutic interventions. She has, big goals of being able to use horses in that sense. And here are the questions. How do horses affect your daily life? Kate's response was, well, they pretty much are my daily life at this point. Their care adds a certain structure to the day. They require a routine and sticking to it, and it's been good for me too. Number 2, what are some of your favorite things to do with horses and why? I love everything about it, but I especially enjoy the creative problem solving of working with a rider to teach a new goal. I like the challenge of working in a team of 3 and all of their strengths and weaknesses, and I like knowing that a successful ride is mutually beneficial for a horse and rider. Number 3, from your knowledge, what was one of the major impacts horses had on society, and do you still see that in use today? Horses had huge impacts in agricultural, transportation, and warfare before industrialization. There are many words and traditions we still use today, but they now make serious contributions to any of those fields. I do like to pretend that I will have an advantage in the apocalypse, but I'm not sure that we train our horses as well as we used to for the purpose of transportation. Number 4, how have you personally experienced the change in the use of horses over time? I don't think I've personally experienced a major shift from the horses as transportation to horses recreation, but I do think it's relevant to point out that horses may be better off now that they are more often considered a pet than a tool. And number 5, do you think that there could be another shift in how horses are used in day-to-day life, and how do you see that happening? And I asked Kate to think about this in the therapeutic sense. Besides horses being integrally for farming and besides horses used integrally for farming and transport, equestrianism had always been the elitist pastime of the wealthy. Especially as farmland dwindles, that has not changed. If anything, horses become more and more financially inaccessible. The therapeutic benefits are obvious to anyone who had worked regularly with them, but the field needs more rigorous research to be accepted as a more mainstream intervention. Even with superb evidence, it is likely to continue to be an opportunity available primarily to those who can afford to subsidize and care for such an expensive animal. My hope would be that as interventions using horses become more widely accepted, we can find ways to spread out the expense and make it more financially accessible. So again, that's something that Kate and I have had many, many conversations about, and it was really interesting to kind of see her view on the changes. Here is my citations, which I will send to you in addition to Kate's responses. Overall, I definitely learned some things. And it was very, very interesting to see, especially the major dates of changes. This whole thing was very interesting to me, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.